The Reinvention of Edison Thomas, Chapter 2, Part 1. Goodbye, adios, ciao ciao. At 6:30 a.m., Eddie's wake-upper kicked in. He had gotten the timer from a coffee maker, the kind that has your coffee ready when you wake up. The CD of ocean waves that had been playing all night faded slowly into silence. At the same time, another CD player containing a CD by his favorite group, They Might Be Giants, began to play a song called Photosynthesis. The volume started very slowly and gradually increased. His bedside lamp began to get brighter. By 6:33 a.m., the CD and lamp were at full intensity. Eddie was awake, but still calm. The wake-upper worked much better than his old alarm clock with the loud buzzer. The buzzer woke him up, but he would sit bolt upright with a racing heart. Not a good way to start the day. After a trip to the bathroom, he checked the day's schedule, which he had printed out the previous night and taped to the door. Today is Friday, October 6th. Check. P. Check. Get dressed. Blue jeans, black NASA t-shirt, Woolman college sweatshirt. Check. Eddie got dressed, took the schedule off the door, folded it, and put it in the right rear pocket of his jeans. Schedule worked pretty well, except when he forgot to take it out of his pocket to check it. Eddie missed his electronic organizer. He could check his schedule weeks ahead of time. He could also keep track of homework assignments and write notes to himself. That was the problem. He could do so much with his electronic organizer that he wasted too much time fiddling with it. Why do they call it fiddling when it has nothing to do with violins? He had made the mistake of fiddling with it in social studies, and Mr. Adler took it away. Eddie's breakfast, as usual, consisted of cornflakes, a banana, milk, and orange juice. His mom emerged from her studio, a pencil behind her ear and ink smudges on her face. She refilled her oversized coffee cup shaped like a squirrel, with the tail for a handle. She sat down next to Eddie and asked, "What's on your schedule for today?" Eddie pulled his schedule out of his pocket. "Looks pretty good. Math test, session with Tiffany, report on Battle of Bunker Hill due." "Did you finish the report?" interrupted Dad, plopping his spoon down into his oatmeal, which appeared especially vicious this morning. "Almost," said Eddie. "I will finish it at lunch." "Almost?" laughed Dad. "Do you really expect to finish it at lunch? You're lucky if you finish your lunch at lunch." "Jeff, that's enough," chided Mom. "There's nothing he can do about it now. Eddie, you'd better get going. Don't forget your lunch." Eddie didn't forget his lunch. He did, however, forget to put his schedule back in his pocket. Fact number 9,192,631,770 from the random access memory of Edison Thomas. In the past, time was measured based on Earth's rotation. Modern atomic clocks are so accurate that in 1967, scientists redefined the second based on the vibrations of a cesium-133 atom. On the walk to school, Eddie brooded about the science fair. Alternate. Big deal. He would not have the opportunity to bring his Eddie coil to the regional science competition unless, for any reason, the first or second place finisher was unable to attend. What would make someone unable to attend the regionals? Nothing would keep Eddie away, except maybe death. It was probably wrong to hope for the death of Keisha Davis or Justin Peterson. Illness, perhaps? Kidnapping? A jail sentence? As he reached the corner of Delaware Avenue and Hatteras Street, he heard a deep voice. "Good morning," bellowed Jim, the crossing guard. "How are you today?" "Fine," replied Eddie. "Watch your step," said Jim as he walked into the street with his hand-held stop sign. "It rained cats and dogs last night, and you wouldn't want to step in a poodle." Eddie stepped into the street, snickering. Raining Feliz Silvestris and Canis Familiaris. That was pretty funny. "I think you'll be all right, though," added Jim as Eddie passed by. "I can only see miniature poodles." Eddie reached the other side of the street. "Here's a pointer for you. If you get cold, you could wrap yourself in an Afghan hound." "Right," said Eddie. "Well, Ciao, ciao for now, yelled Jim as Eddie walked away. I'll see you this afternoon. Have a great day. Fact number 5280 from the Random Access Memory of Edison Thomas. Sled dogs are the world's most powerful draft animals. A team of sled dogs can pull the same weight as a team of horses weighing twice as much. Winning teams can run the Iditarod, a 1,150-mile sled dog race from Anchorage to Nome, Alaska, in about 9 days. Eddie realized he had forgotten his schedule as soon as he sat down at his desk in homeroom. For the rest of the morning, he had been repeating what he could remember of the schedule over and over in his head so he wouldn't forget anything. Today was a Tiffany day. Usually, that was a good thing, but since he didn't want to forget about his appointment with Tiffany, he was having trouble concentrating on the task at hand, the math test. He looked up at the clock on the wall, 10:38. Sometimes it seemed as if the clock wasn't moving. He listened for the click as the minute hand of the clock moved to the next minute, 10:39. It was probably just slow. He looked at his watch, 10:39. Chances of his watch and the clock showing the exact same time, but both being wrong, were pretty small. Eddie nearly jumped out of his seat when Miss Johnson tapped him on the shoulder and said quietly, "You've only got 10 minutes to finish up. I suggest you stop daydreaming and get to work." Eddie looked down at his work. The math was easy. The hard part was writing down the numbers. He had finished only 4 problems. He checked those answers for flipovers. It looked pretty good, with only 1 backward 6 and 2 backward 4s. He erased those and rewrote them, checking them against the numbers that were already printed on the page to make sure he wrote them the right way around. Took a deep breath and tried to focus his mind on the math. Pushing other thoughts out of his head, he had to finish before Tiffany arrived. At 10:49, Tiffany popped her head into the room. "Ready?" she asked. "Almost," said Eddie as he wrote the last number, put his pencil away, and stood up to bring the paper to Miss Johnson. As Eddie walked with Tiffany to her office, he listened to the clicking of her fancy pointed shoes echoing in the hall. Eddie always wore quiet shoes. Eddie liked it when he and Tiffany were the only people in the hall. Between classes, there were so many other people, he couldn't hear the individual footsteps. They got all mixed up into one big noise. "How was your math test?" asked Tiffany. "Fine," said Eddie. "How are your numbers?" "Good." "Not as many flipovers?" "No, I just compare the numbers I write to the ones that are already on the page." "What if there are no numbers already there?" "Then I'll look at the clock. All the numbers are there." "Good strategy," said Tiffany. Fact number 305 from the Random Access Memory of Edison Thomas. In the 14th century, shoemakers began to make shoes to fit either the right or left foot. Before that, right and left shoes were identical. Eddie's session with Tiffany took longer than it should have. Tiffany had some new computer software that showed video clips of famous actors and actresses in movies. Eddie had to decide what emotions they were showing. He did fine with the scenes from movies in his own collection of science fiction and fantasy DVDs, but had to guess at the unfamiliar ones. And the harder he tried, the worse he did. He didn't want to leave until he had reached level 2, but Tiffany finally convinced him that he needed to quit. As always, Eddie tensed up when he entered the lunchroom, trying to defend his brain from the onslaught of noise and smells and the visual clutter of hundreds of kids. He preferred to sit in the corner of the room, which was quieter and had walls instead of people on 2 sides. Unfortunately, he was so late today that his usual corner was not available. It looked like a spot was open at Mitch's table, even though 3 girls he didn't recognize had joined the usual lunchtime trio of Mitch, Will, and Mark. Mitch sure had a lot of friends. "Hey, Mitch," said Eddie. "Can I sit with you?" "Sorry, Professor, that seat is saved," replied Mitch. "Yeah, for humans," muttered Mark. The girls giggled. "Maybe some other time," said Mitch. "I see some seats on the other side of the room. Way over there." "Thank you," said Eddie. He turned, stumbled slightly, and walked away. He heard Will mumble something that sounded to Eddie like Homo sapiens, and the girls giggled again. Eddie made his way to the other side of the room. but he didn't see any open spots. He did see Keisha Davis, first place finisher at the science fair. She was laughing with some friends, obviously pleased with herself. No room for Eddie there. He stood looking for a place to sit, trying not to panic, when a voice came from behind him. "There's room at my table, Eddie." He turned to see a small kid with messy hair, the color of sandstone, and large glasses to match. He recognized him from the science fair. Was this the kid that put the geek note on Eddie's back? Eddie was too hungry to care at the moment, so he sat down and started to eat his lunch. "My name is Justin Peterson," said the boy. "Eddie Thomas," said Eddie. "I know. Congratulations on finishing third in the science fair," said Justin. Eddie grunted as he chewed on his sandwich. Peanut butter, chunky, and honey, also known as bee vomit, on whole wheat, stone ground. He didn't want to be reminded of his failure. "What would happen if the ring was made of a metal besides copper?" said Justin. "Non-ferrous metals like aluminum would be repelled by the induced field, just like copper," explained Eddie. "But ferrous metals like iron or steel or nickel would be attracted." "Like they would be attracted to a magnet." "Exactly. In that case, the coil would be acting as an electromagnet." Eddie bit into his apple. "So, Eddie," Justin hesitated, "did you get to see my project, the tornado chamber?" Eddie remembered that Justin had won second place with his project, a pan of hot water in the bottom of an acrylic box. Slits in the side of the box let the cold air in, forming a vortex that resembled a tornado. Justin's project was good, but not as spectacular as the Eddie coil. Eddie could have done a better job on the tornado chamber. He would have rigged it so that the temperature gradient was steeper. That would produce more water vapor and make the tornado much more impressive. "I got most of the pictures of damage caused by tornadoes with different Fuita scales ratings from the internet," continued Justin, "except for that F5 storm in 1984 in Barneville, Wisconsin. My great-aunt Lena lives right near there and took those pictures. She says the tornado wiped out 90% of the town." Eddie wished Justin would just stop rubbing it in. Justin was going to regionals, and Eddie was not. Maybe Justin would drop out. Justin paused. "Listen, I think it really stinks that somebody did that to you at the science fair. That note on your back. Do you have any idea who did it?" Why would Justin ask that? "Was it you?" asked Eddie. Justin laughed. "Me? Why would I call you a geek? That would be like the pot calling the kettle black." The bell rang before Eddie could ask Justin what cooking utensils had to do with anything. "Snap! I have to run," said Justin, shoving what was left of his lunch into his backpack. "Promised Miss Copeland I would help her set up the microscopes." Eddie didn't finish his report on Bunker Hill at lunch. He didn't even have time to finish his lunch. Again. Fact number 695 from the Random Access Memory of Edison Thomas. The Enhanced Fuita Scale was adopted on February 1st, 2007, and rates the intensity of tornadoes ranging from EF0 to EF5. It replaced the Fuita scale, which ranged from F0 to F6, although an F6 tornado has never been recorded. Tornadoes are classified based on the damage they do, not on direct measurement of wind speed. When he crossed the street on his way home, Eddie heard Jim speak to him as he passed. "Well, I guess this is goodbye, my friend," said Jim. "Goodbye," replied Eddie. "I will see you on Monday." "No, I'm afraid you won't." Eddie got to the other side of the street, paused, and turned to face Jim. "I do not understand." "I've been laid off," said Jim. "The city cut the budget, and my job was one of the cuts. They figure that since there's a stop sign at this intersection, I'm not really needed." Eddie didn't like this. He liked Jim. He didn't like change. "It's okay, really," continued Jim. "I'm getting too old for this. I'm going to like staying inside when the weather's bad. Nothing like putting your feet up with a nice cup of hot cocoa." Jim had been the crossing guard at his corner since Eddie was in first grade.